She's cheating. There's no other explanation. Ms. Blackwood's words cut through the silence sharper than a guillotine. The classroom froze, jaws half open, as if someone had just yelled fire in a library. All eyes darted to the whiteboard. Lily's flawless solution glowed like forbidden. Magic 30 seconds of brilliance that solved a problem most PhD students would need: caffeine, therapy, and 3 weeks to untangle. And now, that brilliance had just signed her death warrant. Because at Everest Academy, the most prestigious, ivy-draped, legacy-obsessed school in America, there was only one unwritten rule. Genius docenti come from the quiet girl in the back row. What happens when the student everyone ignores is suddenly accused by the teacher everyone worships? Lily Thompson has 48 hours to prove her genius, or watch her entire future get crushed under a single word: cheater. But here's what no one saw coming. The very system designed to protect academic integrity was about to get flipped inside out. By the shyest girl in school, this isn't about one grade. This is about a quiet revolution, a storm wrapped in silence that could change the way the world recognizes brilliance forever. Imagine Hogwarts, but replace the magic with endless stress, brick walls covered in ivy. An alumni so famous their Wikipedia pages have Wikipedia pages. Here, success isn't just expected, it's engineered. Speak confidently. Follow the rules. Never challenge authority. Do that, and the Ivy League practically sends you an engraved invitation. Fail, and you vanish like last season's TikTok trend. And then there's Lily Thompson. Lily doesn't vanish. She erases herself. She takes the back seat in every class, folds into corners, avoids eye contact like it's radioactive. Teachers mistake her silence for laziness, but behind those lowered eyes lives a mind that doesn't just do math. She sees it. Equations aren't numbers to her, they're constellations. Unfortunately, Ms. Eleanor Blackwood doesn't see stars, she sees a target. Ms. Thompson, Blackwood purred, her voice dripping with condescension. Perhaps you'd like to finally join our discussion today? Or are you planning to contribute nothing again? The class chuckled nervously. Just like that, the battle lines were drawn. A student no one believed in, against a teacher no one dared question. Everest Academy classrooms didn't just run on schedules, they ran on military precision. Hands were raised at perfect 45-degree angles. Calculators were holstered like weapons. And God forbid you solved a problem without following Ms. Blackwood's sacred step-by-step scripture. One wrong move, say, daring to think differently, and you were basically committing academic heresy. Sorry, Lily would stammer when called out, her voice a shaky whisper. I was listening. Listening isn't participation, Miss Thompson, Blackwood snapped. Excellence requires voice. Translation: sit up, speak up, or shut up. But what Blackwood and everyone else never saw was Lily's secret world. Notebooks weren't filled with the clumsy scratchwork of her classmates. They were bursting with page after page of mathematical poetry proofs, so elegant they looked like art. Shortcuts that broke the rules, and answers to problems no textbook even dared to print. Her mind didn't walk the normal path. It sprinted across logical gaps and leaped fences like a parkour athlete in a math hoodie. Explaining it out loud? Impossible. But writing it down? Pure brilliance. And then came the math right competition. This wasn't just any math test. It was Everest's Hunger Games, sponsored by tech giants, judged by professors, and broadcast across the school like an academic Super Bowl. Winning meant instant acceptance into elite universities. For seniors like Lily, the timing in October was everything. The results would land right on those early decision applications, like golden tickets to the Ivy League. This year's competition, Principal Foster announced at the assembly, will test not just ability, but originality. Judges are looking for innovative approaches to impossible problems. For the first time in years, Lily's chest tightened with something dangerous. Hope. Because originality, innovation, that was her secret weapon, while her classmates could grind formulas like trained robots. Lily connected mathematical concepts the way jazz musicians connected notes unexpected. Wild, but somehow perfect. Of course, Ms. Blackwood wasn't about to let that hope bloom. Don't get your hopes up, Miss Thompson, she sneered after class, as Lily hovered by the sign-up sheet. Math right requires communication as much as computation. The judges need to understand your process, and you. Her eyes flicked over Lily like she was grading a failing test. You barely speak. I understand, Lily whispered. Her hand trembled, but she signed her name anyway. Right then, Trevor Whitmore, the golden boy, Blackwood's star student, and the human embodiment of smugness stepped forward. He signed with the kind of flourish you'd expect from someone autographing fan posters at Comic-Con. Then he smirked at Lily. "Don't worry," he said. "Some of us are just built for greatness." The room laughed. Lily didn't, because, in her head, something clicked. Trevor had no idea. Neither did Blackwood. But the competition wasn't going to reveal what Lily lacked. It was going to reveal what she was. "Looking forward to the competition, Ms. Blackwood?" "I've been preparing all summer," Trevor bragged, his voice smooth as buttered arrogance. "I expect nothing less than excellence from you, Trevor." Blackwood smiled, the kind of warm, glowing, teacher-of-the-year smile Lily had never received at once. It was the academic version of a mother baking cookies for her golden child, while forgetting the quiet kid existed. But what no one at Everest Academy understood was this. Lily's brilliance was on T, just different. It was radioactive, too powerful, too unconventional. And 3 times before, that power had already backfired. 3 times Lily had solved problems in ways her schools couldn't understand. And 3 times she'd been branded a cheater because her quiet voice couldn't defend the storm in her mind. Each time, her family packed up and moved, carrying both furniture and shame. Everest was the last stop before college applications. One more incident and her future wasn't just threatened, it was over. "Maybe this time will be different," her mother whispered with brittle optimism on the first day at Everest. "Just try to speak up more, honey. Try to speak up more, as if it were that easy." The night before the competition, Lily sat cross-legged on her bed, drowning in journals and cutting-edge research papers. Her classmates memorized formulas like robots drilling for a test. Lily, on the other hand, dove into the why, the deep structures, the patterns beneath. Where they saw symbols, she saw symphonies. And tomorrow, the world would finally see her music, or it would destroy her again. The MathRite competition transformed Everest Academy's pristine auditorium into an academic war zone. 50 students hunched over desks, pencils sharpened like bayonets. Judges from Ivy League schools and scouts from Silicon Valley loomed at the back like talent agents at a brutal casting call. Lily slipped into her seat, her heart hammering against her ribs so loudly she swore the kid next to her could hear. Around her, competitors exchanged confident smiles, whispered about strategy, flexed their sharpened number 2 pencils like warriors showing off swords. Trevor, of course, sat 2 rows ahead, perfect posture, supplies aligned with military precision, the kind of student who sharpened his erasers just to intimidate people. "You have 3 hours to solve the problem," announced Dr. Reynolds, the competition coordinator. His voice echoed like a judge handing out a sentence. This year's challenge was developed by MIT mathematicians and has not yet been definitively solved in academic literature. The room inhaled sharply. An unsolved problem in a high school competition? This wasn't math. This was gladiatorial combat. At exactly 9 a.m., proctors distributed sealed envelopes. The paper rustled like battle drums. Lily's hands trembled as she tore hers open. 6 dense pages fell out, heavy with academic jargon. The challenge: optimizing network pathways in multi-dimensional space-topology nightmare, with real-world applications in quantum computing. Translation: everyone was doomed. The silence was deafening. Then scratch, scratch, scratch pencils began moving, until they didn't, until they froze, then started again, then froze harder. The entire room was stuttering, tripping, collapsing under the impossible weight of the problem. Lily didn't write, not yet. She read the problem once, twice, 3 times, letting every parameter, every condition soak into her bones. This wasn't calculus. This wasn't algebra. This was uncharted. So while others attacked the problem with traditional weapons, Lily closed her eyes. She didn't see nodes and equations. She saw movement, a living, breathing system, shifting and reconfiguring itself like a galaxy folding inward. The solution wasn't about finding a single best path. It was about realizing the whole system could reshape itself into something better. 40 minutes in, the whispers started. Sharp, frustrated, panicked whispers. Students who had come in as champions were cracking. Meanwhile, Lily's pencil was still untouched. Her eyes were still closed. In inner silence, something extraordinary was unfolding. For the first time, Everest Academy's math prodigies were tasting something bitter. Failure. Pencils scratched furiously, erased violently, then stalled. Equations crumbled. Confidence cracked. Trevor's pencil still moved with steady rhythm. But his furrowed brow betrayed the truth he was guessing, patching holes, hoping his sheer arrogance could carry him to the finish line. Lily, meanwhile, finally lowered her pencil to paper. Her approach looked nothing like the neat, rigid formulas everyone else was attempting. Instead, she transformed the impossible problem into patterns of visual map. Her own private language, where dozens of variables danced across the page at once. By the 1-hour mark, her hand froze mid-stroke. The pattern revealed itself. The trick wasn't finding one optimal path. The trick was proving that the optimal path didn't even exist. It shifted, depending entirely on the observer's perspective. From one frame, inefficiency; from another, perfection. The paradox resolved not by brute force, but by elegance. Beautiful, bold, completely unorthodox. Then Lily did the unthinkable. She began translating her vision into conventional math the judges could understand. Piece by piece, she walked backwards, converting instinct into proof. 90 minutes later, half the allotted time, she stood up. Ms. Blackwood's eyebrows shot up like they'd seen a ghost. "Finished already, Miss Thompson?" she said, her voice dripping disbelief. It sounded less like a question and more like a threat. "Yes," Lily whispered, sliding her paper forward. "I'll make sure the judges review it promptly." Blackwood's smile was tight, brittle. Lily returned to her seat. Trevor noticed her empty desk, confusion flickering across his perfect features before hardening into suspicion. 2 hours in, the judges clustered around Lily's submission. Whispers, raised eyebrows, urgent voices. Even Ms. Blackwood elbowed her way into the circle, her expression curdling as she read. 11:45, 15 minutes before time was up, Dr. Reynolds gripped the microphone. "Attention everyone, we need to implement an unusual procedure. Lily Thompson, please step forward to the judges' table." The auditorium froze. 50 pairs of eyes snapped to Lily. Her legs trembled as she stood, walking the slowest walk of her life toward the panel. 5 professors hunched over her solution like priests decoding scripture. At the edge, Ms. Blackwood folded her arms, eyes blazing with "I told you so." "Miss Thompson," Dr. Reynolds said carefully, "your solution is extraordinary." Lily blinked. Had she heard that right? Extraordinary? But before the praise could land, Blackwood's voice sliced through. "Extraordinary because it's impossible." Gasps. A ripple through the room. No high school student could independently develop this approach. It relies on concepts from quantum topology material taught at the graduate level. The MIT professor leaned forward, yet her work shows a clear progression of thought. "It's not copied." Because she had outside help, Blackwood snapped, or access to materials the others didn't. Lily's throat burned. "I didn't," she whispered. Blackwood raised her tablet, pulling up an abstract. "This mirrors emerging research in academic journals, not textbooks." Journals? Are we to believe she reads postdoctoral mathematics? For fun? I do," Lily stammered, her voice barely audible. "In my free time." The laugh Blackwood unleashed was cruel, echoing through the auditorium. "You expect us to believe that?" Judges exchanged uneasy glances. "Miss Thompson," Dr. Reynolds said gravely, "these are serious concerns. Cannot accept your submission without an investigation." And then Blackwood's final blow? She raised her voice so the entire hall could hear. "She's cheating. There's no other explanation." The word hit Lily like a slap. Her chest tightened. The old wound reopened. Misunderstood. Brilliance mistaken for dishonesty. Principal Foster, summoned by the chaos, strode in and announced, "Academic Integrity Committee hearing. Tomorrow at 4 p.m., Miss Thompson. You have until then to prepare your defense. 48 hours. That's all she had to save her future. ... With early college applications due in 10 days, the timing couldn't have been worse. By lunch, Lily's so-called execution was Everest Academy's hottest gossip. Students she'd never spoken to suddenly had opinions about her morality. Teachers who'd never remembered her name whispered as she passed. "She's too quiet to cheat," one sophomore declared in the cafeteria. "She doesn't even talk to people." "That's exactly how cheaters work," his friend countered. "The quiet ones always have secrets." Lily sat alone, staring at her untouched sandwich. Her appetite vanished. The worst part wasn't the accusation. It was that nobody had asked for her side. Blackwood's verdict had been stamped as truth before Lily could even open her mouth. Her phone buzzed. Text from her mom. Principal called. "Coming home early to talk. Hang in there, honey." Lily closed her eyes. It was happening again. The storm had found her. The story was playing on repeat. Lily knew the script by heart. Exceptional work, accusations, disbelief, then exile. 3 schools, 3 accusations, 3 escapes. But there was no escape this time, no next school. With college applications due in weeks, a single black mark of academic dishonesty would slam every door shut. After lunch, Lily normally disappeared into the library's quietest corner, buried in math journals far beyond the curriculum. Today, she stopped at the doors, her chest heavy under the weight of 50 unseen stares. The whispers, the gossip, the verdict, already handed down. She pivoted. Not the library, the math department office. Maybe if, she explained her approach to someone in authority, someone reasonable, she could prove herself. Unfortunately, the office wasn't empty. It was occupied by Ms. Blackwood. The teacher looked up from her computer, eyes like ice picks. "Miss Thompson, I assume you're here to confess." Lily gripped her notebook so tightly her knuckles went white. "I'd like to explain my approach. I could show you my process." "Your process," Blackwood interrupted, her voice razor sharp, "uses concepts that undergraduates struggle to understand. I reviewed your previous work. You've never demonstrated this level of insight before, because the class problems have standard solutions," Lily said. To her own surprise, her voice carried more strength than usual. "The competition asked for innovation." Blackwood leaned back, folding her arms. "Innovation builds on fundamentals. Your solution skipped fundamentals entirely. That isn't brilliance, it's fabrication." Lily opened her notebook, her hands trembling. "I see connections differently. I've been solving problems this way for years." Blackwood glanced down once, dismissively. "How convenient. A notebook of original work no teacher has ever verified." Her lips curved into a thin, predatory smile. "Your pattern is clear, Miss Thompson. 3 schools in 4 years. Each time accusations of questionable work. That's not misunderstanding, that's misconduct." Lily's chest burned. Her voice cracked. "They didn't understand." "What we understand perfectly," Blackwood said, turning back to her computer, "is that you submitted work beyond your capabilities. The Academic Integrity Committee will review tomorrow. I suggest you prepare an honest explanation, not another elaborate story. Dismissed." Just like that. Lily stumbled into the hallway, blinking back tears, and collided with someone solid. "Trevor." "Sorry," she muttered, trying to slip past. Wait, she froze. He was blocking her path. "I want to know how you did it," he said. Her breath caught. "Did what? The problem?" His tone wasn't smug, it wasn't mocking, it was curious. "I've studied advanced topology for 2 years, and I couldn't even see the approach you took." "How did you?" For the first time all day, Lily felt a flicker of something dangerous. Hope. Someone wants to understand. "I visualized the network as dynamic patterns rather than fixed nodes," she began hesitantly. "If you treat the observer's reference frame as a variable, not a constant, Thompson." "A word, please." The principal's voice sliced her explanation in half. Trevor stepped back, expression apologetic, as Principal Foster approached. "You have math with Ms. Blackwood next period, correct?" He asked, not really waiting for an answer. "It's best if you skip that class today. Report to my office instead. But I can explain my solution." "The Academic Integrity Committee will hear your explanation tomorrow," Foster said firmly. "Till then, we're minimizing disruptions." Minimizing disruptions. That was the label they put on her now. Not student, not competitor. It's disruption. Lily lowered her eyes. Tomorrow was coming fast. By the final bell, Lily wasn't just under suspicion. She was quarantined. Classes gone. Friends out of reach. Her new desk was a chair in the principal's office, where she was told in clipped tones, "Do not discuss the competition with anyone." Translation: "You're guilty. Sit quietly and wait for sentencing." That evening, their small living room turned into a courtroom. Lily spread her notebooks across the coffee table, pages spilling onto the rug like a storm of ink and symbols. "This isn't right," her father muttered, pacing in tight circles. His voice had the clipped tone of a man grading bad essays in his head. "They're treating you like you've already been convicted." "It's happening again," her mother sighed, rubbing her temples. "For schools, for fresh starts." The fatigue in her eyes said no more. "I didn't cheat," Lily's voice cracked. She shoved her notebook toward them, flipping pages in desperation. "Look, I can show you. Every step, every connection. I can prove it." Her parents exchanged a glance, the kind only long marriages produced. They believed her. They always had, but belief didn't translate equations. Her father was an English teacher. His battlefield was Shakespeare and commas, not topology. Her mother was an occupational therapist. She could rebuild a hand, not a proof. The formulas on the page might as well have been spells written in Martian. Her dad sat, resting a hand on her shoulder. "We believe you. This isn't about us. We need to convince them." So Lily went to war. All night, she dismantled and rebuilt her solution, brick by brick. She forced herself to slow her instincts, mapping every leap of intuition to familiar ground her teachers would recognize. By 3 a.m., her room looked like the lair of a conspiracy theorist, walls plastered with taped-up papers, red pen arrows connecting ideas like strings on a detective's murder board, except instead of suspects, there were vectors, reference frames, and patterns only she could see. By 7 a.m., she had collapsed on her bed, clutching a 20-page defense of her methodology like it was a life raft. Her alarm shrieked for hours later, 5 hours until the hearing in school. A note was taped to her locker in neat, soulless print. Academic Integrity Committee requests additional materials. Hearing moved to conference room at 4 p.m. sharp. Additional materials? She already had a 20-page math novel. What more did they want? Did they want interpretive dance? Exhaustion buzzing in her skull, she hid in a shadowy corner of the library and combed through her defense again. Each page tied her strange, fluid way of seeing the world back to principles someone like Blackwood couldn't ignore. For once, she thought, maybe I'm ready. A shadow fell across her work. She looked up Trevor. He slid into the seat across from her, awkward but determined. "You never finished explaining yesterday." Lily's first instinct was to close her binder like a trapdoor. "I'm not supposed to discuss it, I know," he interrupted, lowering his voice. His eyes flicked around the library before leaning closer. "But you need to hear this. They're building a case against you. Ms. Blackwood's been calling mathematicians all morning, trying to prove your solution was plagiarized." The words landed like stones in her stomach. It wasn't just suspicion anymore. It was a hunt. "What?" Lily whispered. "How do you even know that?" "I was helping in the department office," Trevor said, dropping his voice to a conspiratorial hush. "She's already told the committee you're guilty. She's talked to Principal Foster about appropriate disciplinary action." The words hit like a gavel. So that was it. The hearing wasn't about truth. It was paperwork. A ceremony to make a foregone conclusion official. 5 hours left. How do you prove innocence to people who have already written the ending? The Academic Integrity Committee usually met in Principal Foster's office, a museum of intimidation with dark wood. Diplomas lined like trophies, and chairs designed to creak ominously. Today, a taped sign redirected them to Conference Room A. Lily's stomach dropped. A bigger room meant a bigger audience. A spectacle. "Mom, they changed the location?" She whispered, clutching her mother's arm at 3:55 p.m. "That's unusual," her mother said, therapist calm, covering the quake beneath. "Stay steady. Explain your process clearly." The door swung open. Nightmare tableau. A long table at the front. 7 committee members, Dr. Wheeler from Math, Principal Foster, and of course Ms. Blackwood, seated like the prosecution in a courtroom drama. Behind them, rows of chairs filled with at least 30 observers, teachers, admin, and worst of all, students. Trevor sat near the aisle, eyes already on Lily like he was bracing for impact. "What are all these people doing here?" her father demanded. Given the exceptional nature of this case and its implications for competition protocols, Principal Foster said, voice polished to a bureaucratic shine, we've invited relevant parties to observe. This isn't a public trial. This is a student review, Lily's mother countered, not a performance. The committee will conduct its business appropriately, Foster replied. Frost in every syllable. Ms. Thompson, please take your seat. A single chair faced the 7 precise, isolating, courtroom perfect, the defendant's dock in beige carpeting. Lily set her 20-page defense on the table, suddenly looked thin. The committee calls this hearing to order at 4:02 p.m., announced Dr. Wheeler, clinical as a stopwatch. We have 24 hours to reach a determination regarding the alleged violation. 24 hours. The countdown got a microphone. Ms. Blackwood, please present the complaint. Blackwood stood, tablet in hand, courtroom ready. Ms. Thompson submitted a math-right solution that employs concepts far beyond the high school curriculum, including elements of quantum topology and non-Euclidean reference frames. Her approach mirrors cutting-edge research not yet widely published. She rotated the tablet. Side-by-side comparisons lit the screen. Lily's pages beside dense journal abstracts. Note the methodological similarities to Dr. Haruki's recent paper and Professor Chen's quantum network optimization theory. These are postdoctoral concepts not accessible through standard educational channels. Heads nodded down the line, grave satisfied. Furthermore, Blackwood went on. Ms. Thompson's record shows a pattern question work at 3 previous institutions. In my class, her performance has been adequate, but unexceptional. No evidence of the sudden brilliance displayed here, because you never asked the right questions, Lily thought. The words slipped out as a whisper no one heard. Ms. Thompson, Dr. Wheeler said, turning to her, present your defense. Lily's hands trembled, but her voice held. She distributed the package she'd built from midnight to dawn. I've documented my solution step by step, she said, steadying herself, showing how each conclusion follows logically from established principles. The pathway isn't the one we're used to, but it is valid. And if permitted a whiteboard, I can reconstruct the reasoning live. Silence pressed in. 30 observers leaned forward. For the first time all day, Lily didn't shrink from it. She met their eyes. Watch me think. As the committee flipped through Lily's carefully prepared defense, their expressions didn't soften. If anything, they hardened. The terminology she had fought all night to translate into conventional language still landed like alien. Hieroglyphics to the non-math specialists in the room. I see equations and diagrams, said Ms. Santos, the English department head, squinting as though numbers might bite. But I don't understand how this proves you didn't have outside help. The proof is in the methodology, Lily insisted, her voice tightening. If you follow the logical progression, you'll see. Which requires graduate-level mathematical knowledge to evaluate. Ms. Blackwood cut in, silk over steel. Convenient, isn't it? Principal Foster leaned forward like a judge delivering a death sentence. Ms. Thompson, do you have any witnesses who can verify this work was done independently? Lily felt the walls closing. No, I work alone. Can anyone attest to you operating at this level before the competition? Her gaze swept the audience like a drowning swimmer searching for a lifeline. No hand raised, no smile offered. My previous teachers, she started, all of whom raised concerns about your work's authenticity. Ms. Blackwood finished smoothly, her voice the scalpel slicing every escape. They didn't understand my methods, Lily pleaded, her voice cracking. Neither do we, Dr. Wheeler said, with the finality of a gavel strike. That is precisely the problem. Now, for the next hour, the committee dismantled her defense, piece by piece. Without advanced math backgrounds themselves, they leaned on Ms. Blackwood's expertise. Every question, every side glance, every whispered note circled back to the same verdict. In waiting, this is too advanced. Too clean. Too impossible. By 5:30 p.m., Dr. Wheeler called a pause. The committee will recess until tomorrow at 9 a.m. Final statements will be heard then. A decision will follow. As the room emptied, Lily sat frozen in her chair, staring at the neat stack of papers that had once felt like armor, but now looked like ash. 15.5 hours left, and she had convinced no one. Her father hugged her tight. This isn't fair, honey. It doesn't matter if it's fair, Lily whispered. They've already decided. In the hallway, Ms. Blackwood's voice carried, sharp and triumphant. The appropriate response must include competition disqualification, automatic course failure, and a permanent note on her record. Academic integrity is the foundation of this institution. The words slammed into Lily harder than any accusation. No early decision, no scholarships, no future. Just the word cheater stapled to her name forever. Dinner that night was no dinner at all. Just a battlefield with plates of untouched food and Lilius papers spread like troop maps. Her parents traded desperate strategies that all hit the same wall. The committee couldn't understand the math. We could request an outside expert, her father suggested, twirling pasta that never left his fork. In 15 hours? Her mother countered. And even if we did, who would Everest accept that wouldn't just echo Ms. Blackwood's opinion? The doorbell rang, cutting through the thick silence. Her father rose with a weary sigh, opened the door, then froze. Lily, it's for you. On the porch stood Alex Chen. She recognized him faintly, a grad student, a teaching assistant in Everest's math department. Awkward, lanky hair that looked like it had lost a fight with gravity. He clutched a laptop bag like it was a shield, but his eyes nervous, determined, burning with something Lily hadn't seen all day: hope. I heard what happened, Alex said, voice wavering but resolute, and I think I can help. Sorry to intrude, Alex began, clutching the strap of his laptop bag like it might anchor him in place. I'm Alex Chen, math department TA. I need to talk to Lily about her competition solution. Lily's parents exchanged protective glances, part suspicion, part exhaustion. I'm not here to accuse her, Alex blurted quickly, raising both hands. I'm here because I think she's right. The words landed like oxygen after drowning. The first voice of support Lily had heard since the competition. Her throat tightened. She almost cried right there, in the living room. Alex flipped open his laptop with trembling urgency. I've been observing your work all semester, he explained, pulling up a folder labeled Thompson Observations. What? Lily blinked in confusion. Why would you observe me? Because you solve problems differently, Alex said simply, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. I'm writing my master's thesis on unconventional mathematical cognition. And you, Lily Thompson, are the most interesting case study I've ever seen. He spun the screen around. Dozens of files filled the folder. Photos of Lily's homework. Annotations of her unique problem-solving paths. Timestamps, tracking her consistency. You've been watching me? Lily asked, half unsettled, half intrigued. Academically watching, Alex clarified with a sheepish shrug. Every class, you attack problems from unusual entry points. You skip the so-called mandatory steps because you see connections other people don't. I've been documenting this pattern for months. Her father leaned forward, eyes narrowed. This helps us how, exactly? Alex's fingers flew across the keyboard, pulling up side-by-side comparisons. Lily's homework versus her competition solution. The same leaps, the same shortcuts, the same visual logic. Because this proves her methodology isn't copied. It's hers. It's distinct, consistent, verifiable. I can testify to it. For the first time since her nightmare began, hope flickered in Lily's chest. You testify for me? Yes. That's why I'm here, Alex said firmly. Then his tone dropped, weightier. But there's something else you need to know. The room fell silent. The MathRight competition isn't just about finding answers. It's sponsored by Quantum Horizons. They're not testing knowledge. They're scouting for unconventional thinkers for their quantum computing division. Lily's mother crossed her arms, skeptical. And how would you know that? Because I interned there last summer. Alex pulled out a sleek business card stamped with the Quantum Horizons logo. That unsolved problem they gave you? It's not just an academic challenge. It's a recruitment tool. It wants students who think differently. Lily's mind reeled. So, the whole point was to find unusual solutions. Exactly, Alex nodded. And you delivered one of the most original approaches I've ever seen. Quantum Horizons noticed. Which is why. His expression darkened. Representatives from Quantum Horizons and MIT will be at tomorrow's hearing. Her father sat up straighter. Wait, so the company sponsoring the competition is sending people to the hearing? Because they don't think you cheated, Alex said. They think you're exactly who they're looking for. Lily's pulse spiked. Then why? Because Ms. Blackwood knows this too, Alex cut in. She's suppressing it. She's been discrediting innovative students for years. 3 others before you had unconventional talent. All 3 faced academic integrity charges. She buries them before they can threaten her reputation. She targets students who think differently, Lily whispered, the pattern finally locking into place. Control, Alex said bitterly. Prestige. Her methods are in textbooks, her reputation spotless. If students succeed outside her formula, her empire crumbles. Her mother shook her head. That's not just unethical, that's academic malpractice. Alex nodded grimly, and it gets worse. Tomorrow isn't just a hearing anymore, it's a stage. With MIT and Quantum Horizons in the room, this case could decide more than Lily's future, could decide Everest Academy's reputation. The silence was suffocating. Finally, Lily asked the only question that mattered. So what do we do? Alex snapped his laptop shut. We fight back. I'll testify with my documentation, but we'll need more. Something undeniable. What about a test her father offered? Have Lily reproduce her solution under controlled conditions? Alex's eyes lit up. Yes, a live demonstration. If you can recreate your approach in real time, with me documenting every step, they'll have no choice but to believe. Lily exhaled slowly, terrified but determined. Then that's what we'll do. For 3 hours, their living room transformed into a war room. Alex's files became Exhibit A. Lily's 20-page defense became Exhibit B, and the plan for a live demonstration her mind in action would be the kill shot. When Alex finally stood to leave, he hesitated at the doorway. Lily, he said quietly, I've studied a lot of math in my life, but watching you solve problems, it's like watching someone paint with logic. Don't let them take that from you. And for the first time in days, Lily smiled. Just a little. But it was enough. And there's one more thing you should know. Alex had said the night before, and the sentence had lodged in Lily's chest like a second heartbeat. Professor James Lin from MIT's Quantum Mathematics Division is here tomorrow. He's published work on observer-dependent network optimization work. Your solution independently parallels. Is that bad? Lily had whispered, already bracing for another accusation of plagiarism. No, Alex had smiled, the kind of smile that refitted a broken thing. It's perfect. If you've reached similar conclusions independently with your own method, Professor Lin won't be looking for a cheater. He'll be looking at a colleague. For the first time in 24 hours, something besides dread threaded through Lily. Possibility. Now, with 13 hours until the final hearing, the case had ballooned beyond a schoolyard scandal. Conference Room A had been refitted overnight into a makeshift auditorium, extra chairs. A wheeled whiteboard, a tripod camera with a red light like an unblinking eye. Business suits and tweed jackets crowded the back rows. Dr. Lin sat 2 rows from the back, gray suit and a blue tie precisely knotted. Beside him, a woman in a black blazer, Dr. Samira Patel from Quantum Horizons, watched with an unreadable expression. Lily arrived 15 minutes early. Her palms were iced despite the warm September sun. Alex leaned in and whispered, Professor Lin is in the back row. Gray suit, blue tie. The woman beside him is Dr. Patel. They're not here to accuse you. It was almost encouragement. Almost. At 9 a.m., Principal Foster called the hearing to order. Before we continue from yesterday, there have been some developments, he announced. Alex stood. Sir, I'd like to present evidence relevant to Ms. Thompson's methodology. A flurry of objections until Professor Lin's deep voice cut through. Actually, I would very much like to see Ms. Thompson's process. Heads turned. The MIT professor rose from his seat. The room hummed with a new current of attention. Alex laid out his documentation again, photographs, classwork, timestamps, clear, methodical, defensible. The committee exchanged uncertain looks. It wasn't a slam dunk, but it was a thread leading somewhere. Dr. Wheeler's eyes flicked to Lily's father. We'll permit a live demonstration, he said. And the words felt like a gamble, Miss Blackwood's. Jaw tightened, but she sat silent. A storm, holding back its first strike. Dr. Wheeler walked to the whiteboard and wrote with deliberate slowness. Problem analogous to the competition S challenge. A multi-dimensional network optimization framed with crisp constraints and a neat, unreadable header. The marker squeaked, a camera word. The room leaned in. "Ms. Thompson," Dr. Wheeler said, "solve this using your methodology. Explain as you proceed." Lily stood. Her legs trembled like badly tuned string instruments. The auditorium fell into the kind of hush that makes air audible. She picked up the marker. "I visualize networks as dynamic patterns, not static nodes," she began. Her voice was small at first, then gained volume as she found the rhythm she always did when she was inside a problem. "Instead of optimizing a fixed path, I consider the reference frame the observer as a variable. Change the frame, and the network can reconfigure itself. What looks suboptimal from one perspective becomes optimal from another." She drew fast, now bands and flows, not points. Arrows became waves. She sketched overlapping frames, rotated them, shaded regions where configurations aligned. Her hand moved with the confidence of someone translating a language they'd despoken in their head for years. "As the frame shifts," she said, "the cost function transforms. Instead of minimizing a single metric, we maximize the system's ability to reconfigure. The optimal solution is an equivalence class of paths under observer transformation." She began writing equations compact, clean, the kind of algebra that didn't scream for attention but forced it. Lily didn't just state steps. She narrated the intuition behind them, why a rotated frame collapses multiple suboptimal routes into a single adaptive structure, how a small perturbation in one dimension nullified a large inefficiency in another. As she translated each visual move into conventional notation, Alex's earlier side-by-side comparisons echoed in the room. Same leaps, same ordering, same unseen logic. Halfway through, Professor Lin leaned forward. He murmured something to Dr. Patel, words that carried across 3 rows. Dr. Patel's lips parted. A faint nod from the MIT professor made Mr. Foster's eyebrows lift. Ms. Blackwood opened her mouth, ready to interrupt, but Dr. Wheeler raised a hand. "Let her finish." Finish she did. The whiteboard, once a blank accusation, was now a map of her mind rendered in ink. When she boxed the final expression in inequality that showed how observer-dependent reconfiguration leads to dominated solutions under classical optimization. Assumptions, the room exhaled as one. Silence hung for a breath, then split. From the back, Professor Lin stood slow and deliberate. He crossed to the front, scanning the board as someone reading a fresh and familiar dialect. He traced Lily's logic with a fingertip, then looked up at her. "Miss Thompson," he said, voice disarmingly warm. "That is an independent derivation of results I reached through a very different formalism." Independent derivation is one of the strongest proofs of original thought. "Thank you." A whisper of astonishment moved like electricity. Alex's shoulders sagged with relief. Trevor's face, caught between bewilderment and respect, had turned pale. Ms. Blackwood's composure trembled in a way Lily had never seen. Not anger first, but a thin, hard fear. Lily felt something like lightness, then the camera clicked, catching the moment. She had shown them how she thought. For now, that was the only defense she needed. The hearing hadn't ended. The committee still had questions. But in that charged, perfect silence after Professor Lin's words, the shape of the battle had changed. For the next 22 minutes, Lily commanded the whiteboard like it was a stage. Her marker danced, drawing not just equations, but sweeping arcs, nested diagrams, abstract shapes that looked more like constellations than calculus. She narrated every leap, every pivot. Here, what looks like a dead end is actually a doorway if you rotate the frame. Her words weren't just math, they were story. She wasn't solving a problem. She was showing them how her mind built bridges where others saw walls. About halfway through, Professor Lin began nodding, as if listening to a melody he recognized in a new key. Dr. Patel from Quantum Horizons leaned forward, eyes sharp with intrigue. Even some of the more math-averse committee members squinted with dawning comprehension, as if a fog was parting. On the other side of the table, Ms. Blackwood's expression soured. Her mask of authority cracked with each stroke of Lily's marker, especially when Lily performed the same reference frame shift that had been the centerpiece of her impossible competition solution. The key insight, Lily explained, circling the final set of symbols with deliberate calm, is that network efficiency depends on the observer's perspective. By transforming the frame like this, she drew one last decisive connection. What appeared to be two separate optimization problems revealed themselves as one. She stepped back, marker trembling only slightly in her hand. The board was now a mural of her mind. Messy, brilliant, alive. The answer, she concluded, her voice steady, is that there isn't a single optimal path. There's a dynamic system that reconfigures based on where you stand. Silence. The kind that feels like the world itself holding its breath. Dr. Wheeler approached the board, eyes wide with reluctant wonder. This is remarkable. The methodology is consistent with your competition submission, but applied to an entirely new problem. From the back, Professor Lin rose again, his voice warm and resonant. Her approach parallels advanced theoretical work in quantum reference frames, but derived through a distinctly different pathway. Fascinating, that was the word. Fascinating, not suspicious, not implausible. It's fascinating. The room might have tipped in Lily's favor right then, but Ms. Blackwood shot up like a volcano finally erupting. Her voice was sharp enough to cut glass. This proves nothing. She could have been coached on this specific type of problem overnight. Professor Lin turned, mild but devastating. By whom this approach diverges from any published methodology, including my own. If someone managed to coach her into inventing a parallel mathematical framework overnight, he paused, allowing the tension to stretch. Then I'd like to offer them a position at MIT immediately. A ripple of laughter spread through the audience, breaking the tension like a snapped rubber band. Teachers hid smiles. Even Dr. Wheeler's mouth twitched. Ms. Blackwood's face flushed crimson, fury and humiliation battling for dominance. I believe we've seen enough, Dr. Wheeler declared, turning back to the committee. Ms. Thompson has demonstrated her mathematical capabilities convincingly. But Principal Foster hesitated, his gaze flicking nervously to Ms. Blackwood's thundercloud scowl. Perhaps we should consult additional experts before reaching a determination. This is, after all, highly specialized mathematics. The momentum wavered. The room's air thickened again. Would the committee retreat into bureaucratic fog, shielding itself behind process and protocol? Would they really deny their own eyes to appease Ms. Blackwood? The answer came from a voice that had, until then, been silent. Dr. Patel from Quantum Horizons leaned forward, her tone calm but carrying the weight of authority. I think you'll find the expert opinion on this matter is quite clear, Principal Foster. Perhaps, she glanced toward Professor Lin, then back to the table. It's time you heard it directly. The words cut through the stalemate like a scalpel. For the first time, it wasn't Lily's voice defending her. It was power academic, corporate, undeniable stepping in on her behalf. Dr. Samira Patel rose, with the composed authority of someone who could silence a boardroom full of billionaires. Her Quantum Horizons badge glinted under the fluorescent lights as she walked to the front. For context, she began, her voice smooth but commanding. I'm Dr. Samira Patel, Director of Advanced Mathematics Research at Quantum Horizons and the lead architect of the MathRight competition problem. The room froze. Even Ms. Blackwood, halfway through forming another objection, shut her mouth with an audible click. This problem, Patel continued, gesturing to Lily's whiteboard, was designed to flush out unconventional thinkers. The traditional methods, yes, the ones in textbooks, including your curriculum, Blackwood arrive at an approximate answer only after heavy computation, but they missed the elegant insight Miss Thompson identified. She tapped the section of Lily's solution that had made Blackwood bristle earlier. This reference frame transformation. That's what we were hoping someone would discover. It's mathematically sound, efficient, and more importantly, it reveals a mind that doesn't just follow the map, it redraws it. Gasps fluttered through the audience. To be clear, Patel said, looking each committee member in the eye, Miss Thompson's solution is not plagiarized. It is original, brilliant, and exactly why the competition exists. Principal Foster squirmed in his seat. We appreciate your expert assessment, Dr. Patel. But the issue remains her work uses concepts beyond our curriculum. Beyond your curriculum? Yes, came a calm interruption. Professor James Lin of MIT rose, adjusting his glasses as if ready to cross-examine the universe itself, but not beyond her capabilities. She just proved that in front of all of you. The title alone, MIT, Quantum Mathematics Division, commanded silence. My team published preliminary work last year on observer-dependent optimization, Lynn explained. Ms. Thompson's approach runs parallel to ours, as she derived it independently through an entirely different path. Remarkable. Blackwood pounced like a drowning woman reaching for driftwood. Exactly my point. She must have accessed your research. That would be difficult, Lynn replied, deadpan. Since our findings are still under peer review and won't be published until next year. He paused, then turned to Lily. Young lady, you've independently discovered principles it took my postdoctoral researchers 3 years to develop. That isn't cheating. That's extraordinary talent. The silence after that statement was almost reverent. Blackwood's complexion drained to chalk. Alex seized the moment. Her classroom work was constrained by your insistence on cookie-cutter methods. You never saw her actual ability because you weren't looking for it. Correct, Patel agreed without missing a beat. This happens far too often. We measure conformity and call it excellence. Meanwhile, the real innovators get punished for refusing to color inside the lines. Her eyes flicked toward Blackwood, sharp enough to cut steel. Patel faced the committee again. Quantum Horizons created this competition to find students like Ms. Thompson. To punish her for success is not just wrong, it undermines the entire purpose of this initiative. Professor Lin added the knockout blow. Some of MIT's greatest alumni were accused of dishonesty when their insights outpaced their teachers. History has judged those accusations poorly. I suggest Everest Academy avoid joining that footnote. The implied warning hung heavy. Punish Lily, and your school becomes a cautionary tale. Principal Foster looked like a man watching his career flash before his eyes. Given this testimony, perhaps the committee should deliberate. There's nothing to deliberate, Dr. Wheeler cut in, voice ringing with finality. She reproduced her methodology live. We've heard from the problem's creator and one of the world's foremost experts. The evidence is clear. One by one, the committee members nodded. All but Blackwood, who sat rigid, her knuckles white against the table's edge. Miss Thompson, Dr. Wheeler said, turning to Lily with genuine warmth. On behalf of this committee, I apologize. Your work is valid, exemplary, and extraordinary. The accusation of dishonesty is dismissed. The room broke into scattered applause. Lily's shoulders sagged with relief as her parents wrapped her in a fierce embrace. But Patel wasn't finished. She turned to the assembled staff, her gaze locking on Blackwood like a laser sight. This case highlights a serious flaw in how Everest evaluates mathematical talent. Perhaps it's time the institution reflects on whether it cultivates brilliance or suppresses it. The applause sharpened. This was no longer just Lily's vindication. It was Blackwood's public reckoning. Within hours, Everest buzzed with fallout. Foster convened an emergency faculty meeting to address what he diplomatically called our approach to recognizing diverse academic excellence. But the truth was clear. The system had nearly buried a prodigy. For Lily, the aftermath was surreal. Professor Lin pressed his card into her hand. MIT's summer program would be lucky to have you. Email me directly, Patel followed with her own. Quantum Horizons awards 3 scholarships each year to MathRight finalists. After today, consider this your invitation. Even Trevor, once her loudest skeptic, approached, humbled. Yeah, your solution was incredible, he admitted. I couldn't see it, not even close. For the first time, Lily didn't shrink from the praise. She stood tall, notebook still clutched to her chest. No longer as evidence, but as a banner. She wasn't a fraud. She was exactly what they'd been looking for all along. I didn't understand half of it, Alex admitted, rubbing the back of his neck, but I knew you couldn't have cheated. No one cheats with methods that complex. Lily let out a shaky laugh, finally able to smile. Thanks for warning me yesterday. As the crowd thinned, Lily noticed Ms. Blackwood still at the committee table. Eyes locked on the whiteboard full of Lily's work like it was written in fire. Principal Foster leaned down to speak with her in low tones. Lily couldn't hear the words, but Blackwood's stiff nod and tight lips said it all consequences were coming. 1 week later, Everest Academy announced sweeping changes. First, in alternative methodologies, initiative teachers must now encourage multiple solution paths, not just standardized methods. Second, the Academic Integrity Committee would include outside experts when evaluating advanced work, so innovation couldn't be dismissed as suspicion. Third, Ms. Blackwood would be taking a sabbatical semester to study emerging teaching practices before returning in a redefined role. The biggest announcement came during a packed assembly. This spring, Principal Foster declared, "Everest will host a lecture series on mathematical innovation, co-sponsored by Quantum Horizons and MIT. One of our presenters will be Lily Thompson." The gym erupted. But the transformation wasn't just policy. Lily's confidence grew as younger students asked her for help. "You explain things differently," one freshman said. "Like, I can actually see the patterns instead of just memorizing steps." Word spread. 3 more students came forward to share how their own innovative approaches had been dismissed. Everest's culture was shifting from conformity to creativity, from rigid procedure to possibility. By December, Lily opened her early decision letter, MIT acceptance plus a mathematics scholarship. The note cited her resilience and creativity in solving complex problems under adversity. Alex grinned when she showed him. "Sometimes the system needs a little shaking. You didn't just change your future, you changed Everest for everyone who thinks differently." Spring brought Everest's first quantum mathematics symposium. Caterers from across the state filled the auditorium. At the podium, Lily spoke with a clarity that once would have terrified her. "Mathematical thinking isn't linear," she said. "The most elegant solutions come when we question not just the problem, but the framework we use to understand it." Behind her, a giant screen displayed the now recognized Thompson perspective shifter method already being taught in graduate programs. In the front row, Dr. Patel nodded proudly. Next to her, Professor Lin smiled like he was watching the future unfold in real time. Even Ms. Blackwood was present, quieter, more reflective. Her semester away had softened her edges. She now asked her students why they thought a certain way, not just how. "The true test of education isn't conformity," Lily concluded. "It's growth. When we allow minds to follow their natural pathways, we discover capabilities we never imagined." Applause thundered through the hall. Lily spotted her parents beaming with quiet pride, not just for her brilliance, but for her courage in standing firm when her entire way of thinking had been doubted. Her senior year closed not with scandal, but with revolution. MIT had invited her to join Lin's research team. Everest had founded the Thompson Scholarship for Innovative Thinking, and the story of one quiet girl with a notebook was now reshaping education. Principal Foster took the stage for closing remarks. "What we've learned here is more valuable than any single mathematical breakthrough. Brilliance comes in many forms. Our duty is not to force it into patterns we recognize, but to nurture gifts we don't yet understand." Afterward, Trevor stopped beside her. No smugness this time, just honesty. "You changed everything, Lily. For yourself, for us, even for Ms. Blackwood." Lily smiled softly. Sometimes the system just needs someone to say no and mean it. The challenge she had endured hadn't broken her. It had reshaped the landscape for everyone who thought differently. So remember Lily's story the next time someone dismisses your perspective. Innovation rarely follows the beaten path. Often the most powerful breakthroughs come from minds brave enough to see patterns others miss. Your different way of thinking isn't a weakness. It might be your greatest strength. Subscribe to Fate Tales, where we honor the quiet revolutionaries who reshape systems with courage, creativity, and truth. What perspective have you stood firm in, even when no one else understood? Share your story in the comments. Behind every headline is a human journey. At Fate Tales, we go deeper, where emotion meets evidence and drama reveals the system. If this story made you pause, reflect, or feel something, don't forget to subscribe. The next story is already waiting.